as far as the cocktail circuit was concerned, with a great many guests out here. And one thing that is amazing is that no other hotel or resort in the entire United States, I am sure, would have employees invited by guests to parties. Dinner parties, cocktail parties, that sort of thing.
And that would happen.
And that happened. So there were always a great many.
Now, when you say, you're speaking of the Sun Valley now.
Yes, I'm speaking of Sun Valley.
Would they have those parties in their rooms, or would they have them in rooms in the lodge, or how would those be?
Small group parties were, if it was just a few people, were sometimes held in the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Drinks and hors d'oeuvres.
Mm-hmm. Is there any?
Others were held in the Duchin Room. They could be held at Trail Creek. They could be held any place where there was an area large enough.
I get sort of the impression there was a lot of partying, so-called, going on. Is that a fair...
During the season.
Was that hard on
busy.
you?
Well, one full year I wrote to people that, we had people who had purchased homes down here, purchased lots and built homes, who were involved in the guest circuit. They had originally been guests.
Who would that be included?
Well, you had the Youngers, who built a home down here. You had the Talberts, who built a home down here. You had the people that were down at Mrs. Snook's property below. They bought that property, and the whole family built homes. So there were a lot of home parties that they would have.
And you would be included on that?
Yes. It was unbelievable. And one year I just had to beg off all of them. The children were at a stage where I couldn't leave them that often.
Who would you leave them with when you left them?
Well, I had very good babysitters. Sometimes it was one of the maids at the lodge or the inn, and one of the maids, period, that I knew whether it was inn or lodge.
Were there any local people?
I wouldn't leave them with any. Yes, Mrs. Titus, who used to live here, babysat the children. Susie Anderson and Chris used to come stay at the house when Ed and I had to go, or stay at the apartment. They took care of the children. That was anything long-term or emergency. Mrs. Penny, when Sally was a baby, helped me with her by taking over the child while I was out for dinner, and our eldest son. And let me see who else. I've just no way I can really stop and
but there were resources
just like this.
Yeah.
I didn't have that much of a problem. But I wrote the people that I really knew well, who had constant summer parties, constant dinner parties, or dinner parties I could go to if they were small, I would accept. But the big cocktail party routine, I had to quit.
Why
for
was
a
that?
while. I did 1 year of it. I took off.
Why
because
did you do
I felt the children were just not getting enough
of you,
of their mother and dad. It was hard enough for Ed being gone all the time without my having to be gone every night or every day or whatever. They were occupied during the day because the children learned to do everything. They learned to ski, they learned to skate, they learned to play tennis, they rode horseback. I felt that was to their advantage to do things like that, learn while it was available here for them to learn. And then later, there wouldn't be any time when they couldn't go out and be invited to do something. Whether if it was tennis or golf, they're very good golfers, but it isn't their big thing. But they could fit in any society where they went. It was good for them.
It was good, the place to raise children.
So I
then.
explained to the people I didn't want any of those that I knew well hurt. And The others, I just begged off. I just had a previous engagement or something.
Of the
Wasn't that
celebrity,
important. Pardon?
of the celebrities that came here, the movie stars, or the Hemingways, did you get to know any of these people personally?
Some of them. I knew Ann Southern. I met her. I met the Coopers.
Now, did
Gary Cooper and Rocky.
Ann Southern become part of the community?
Yes, eventually she did. She built a house here,
Uh-huh.
or bought a house. She really bought the house that had been General Carter's. They built the house, bought the lot, built the house, and then when they were transferred, she bought their house.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was here a great deal of the time, winter and summer.
General Carter.
Yes, General Marshall Carter.
No, you said
he was General Carter was an aide to General Marshall in Washington, D.C., who did the Marshall Plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
They were stationed here? You said
they
when they
weren't
were
stationed here. They came here on vacation and wanted to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they were transferred to Alaska, they kept the house and then would come back occasionally. Then it reached a point where they felt that they wouldn't be able to come often enough, so they sold.
Oh, I see. What about other activities here? There were the sports. Did you participate in any of the...
I learned to ski a little, but it wasn't my big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when the children were... I skied while the Navy was here. I went back and skied a little because they kept Dollar open. It ran the lifts for them. Mm-hmm. That was... So I went over there occasionally with some of the officers' wives, and we'd ski on $50. They were just learning, and I was out of practice, and it was great for me, and I got out a little.
Mm-hmm. Was there any...
And I skated some,
mm-hmm.
and I took tennis lessons from Seagle. I didn't do much with that either. Mm-hmm. I'm just not a sports person.
Mm-hmm. What about entertainment, like plays or things like that? Was that part of the community?
Oh, occasionally someone would decide later. It was after the Navy was here and we reopened. Mm-hmm. We did a couple of, we did one melodrama for the benefit of the library, and so that was after we had started the library, or were making plans to do it.
That was as a fundraiser?
Yeah.
Were you in that?
And they did a play. Oh, no, I'm not an actress either.
Okay.
No, I wasn't.
We were talking, not in the interview, but about the murder trial, and you were mentioning something about that. There was one murder, I believe, in town. Was that correct?
They said it was. I just don't want to go into that at all.
Oh, okay.
I don't. It was a very, very difficult, very nasty situation for all people, and while we all kind of went through it, I don't feel that it's anything that is of any value whatsoever with what you're getting.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. I thought you would, because there's no point. There's no point.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you can think of that has to do... the comparison, there seems to be post-war and...
Pre-war.
Or pre-war and post-war.
Right. Was
there really a big difference?
I think so. And after the Navy left, well, I think it was even mentioned in the article the young man wrote that someone in Ketchum had said that the Navy really was responsible for building up Ketchum. And I think there's no doubt about it, because there was a great deal of money spent down in Ketchum during that period. People were bound to have improved by that, as far as their financial situation was concerned. They had no choice but to have improved by that.
Just because there was so
gambling
much...
was wide open, and these kids had been on duty for in very difficult situations, sent up here to recuperate. A lot of them had not been paid for a very long time, and their pay, which could have amount to thousands, or maybe not thousands as a big amount, but in the $1,000 brackets, would catch up with them here. Well, they're going to hoop-de-doo as much as they feel they can. And I think outside of what they had kept out to send home to their families probably, which all of them did, a certain amount of their pay was earmarked for their families. If they didn't have a wife and children, and a good many of them did, it was their parents. It was their safety valve. And then anything above that was theirs to spend as they pleased. So I think they did very well. And then people who had worked for a little while, even before the war even, had started, the kids at the Valley had started putting money into property and a house.
The employees.
That was the employees. So it gradually began to build up from that. And each year, of course, when you stop and think about the fact that this was practically in the middle of the Depression in 1936.
Oh, it sure
Anyone
was.
who had a job, you'd say, was lucky. And while the salaries were low, I don't have much sympathy for a lot of people who are complaining about their salaries now, really. And maybe what they get now doesn't go as far as what the young people received then. They managed to make it go a long, long way, but they put it in something of value. And so Ketchum started building up from homes that employees started building. It gradually grew from that. A lot of those kids moved down in Ketchum. There wasn't room for all employees at the Valley. They just didn't have that much room.
They didn't have room for families as such, did they?
Definitely not.
And there were a lot of marriages, were there not?
Yes.
Marriages made at Sun Valley?
That's right. Well, after all, that's logical. You're out here,
Young.
sort of in the middle of the wilderness, and young people are working, and they're naturally going to meet each other, fall in love, and get married, period.
Sure.
Which they
Makes
did.
sense. Makes sense. What about the guests? There was a clientele, I think, built up before the war. You have the war. Did the same guests come back after the war, or was that a change?
No. A good many of them returned. Let me see. I think most of them who had been here before the war came back. And of course then we had the Challenger Inn. A good many of those people who always stayed at the Challenger Inn came back. So and the same employees who had been here when they left during the war period were here when they came back, those that hadn't gotten lost in the war. A lot of our young people were in service. Many of them.
I cut you off, but you said you had known the Coopers?
Yes, I knew the Coopers.
Were was that kind of a personal relationship? I mean, did you correspond and things like that?
Oh, no. No, we just knew each other. The only person I ever corresponded with at any time was Ann Southern, and that was generally a Christmas card type of thing. It wasn't, no, you knew them, and you were with them here, but I didn't know them to such an extent that I ever went visiting.
What about Mary Hemingway? Was she a personal friend? Or?
No,
She
I
was
just
late.
knew her. I just knew her.
Because she really came in the 60s, wasn't it?
I don't remember when they first came out.
50s. What about the Navy personnel that were here? Did any of them stay?
Some of Ed's crew members stayed. And
he had Navy personnel,
he
crew
had
members?
What happened was that a number of the Seabees, or who had been in the Seabees, were sent here, and the captain wanted them to be kept occupied. So he asked Ed to take them on his crew, let them work with his crew, because at that time Ed had a skeleton crew. A lot of his crew were in service, or they were working with Morrison Knudsen building things out in the islands or someplace like that. And so some of the young men who were Seabees just stayed.
Now, when you left here, were your children, have they ever expressed any desire to return to this area?
Oh, our eldest son, before his death, came back one time, brought his whole family, and he would. I guess actually they were back and forth a couple of times. And our daughter Sally comes up often because she just lives in Pocatello. Our younger son has kind of weaned himself away from it. It isn't the valley itself that is important, but it's the people that are important. And most of his friends are no longer here. Although if he could have been up here with us, he would have seen a great number of people that he knew. No one would have remembered, and I think would have enjoyed it.
How old is he?
But as far as coming up, he's going on 30.
So he went to high school here?
Partly. He finished, he went up to his senior year, and then that was the time we transferred to Omaha. So he said that he would have to come back there with us and finish school. And then he came back out here and worked.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he worked that one summer. As a matter of fact, he stayed here and worked while I went on to Omaha to kind of get set up in a house and that sort of thing, line up the school. And then he came back. There was no place here for him to have stayed. They let him move up to Sun Valley and work. Not because he was of legal age, but because it was not even our request, really, but it was a courtesy to Ed and I. And it made it a little bit easier on him transferring back.
Are there any memories that come to mind that you'd like to share with future generations of this area?
Oh, my word.
Lots of memories.
Oh, my word. I just have so many memories. It's unbelievable. No one particular thing is more important than the others. The people I knew and the way they were with me, and it's a marvelous feeling to be able to come back as we did and have so many people are pleased to see us. As if we're still part of the community. And we've been gone, and that's nice.
That's really
It doesn't
nice.
always work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it has for Ed and I. So
You
I
came
think
back.
we're lucky.
Yeah, you came back for a specific
We
occasion.
came back for the old Sun Valley Old Timers picnic.
Is that something that's been going on very long?
It's been going on for quite some time, but for a long time Ed and I didn't know about it. And then we finally started getting the information. And then Pat Fife wrote us a card one time and said they were going to have it, so Ed and I came up.
Mm-hmm.
And
now this is the old timers that worked at Sun Valley?
Been since 1936.
I'll be darned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
There were several of us there, including Ruth Van Sickle, who had been up here in the 1936. Mm-hmm. She and her husband lived in an outfit car down on the tracks.
We have to talk with her.
Yeah. Oh, you must.
Yeah. She lives in Haley, I think.
Yes, she does. And she's very... her mind is still very alert.
Good.
You better get her, while she's still able to talk or think. It doesn't matter if she can talk. Mm-hmm. But it'd be a shame to miss out on some of her impressions.
You would indeed.
I think any impression you can get from any person has a certain amount of value to what you're trying to do.
It does. It helps paint the picture. It makes it rounder. Everybody has their own view of what it is.
Right.
Each one of us adds to that, which is nice.
And some may have impressions that others don't. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Mm-hmm. It would round it out. Mm-hmm. Because what might be my impression of something may be completely different to someone else. So when you're discussing things like this, you have to get really a well-rounded attitude about it, or you're going to miss out.
Yeah, we're certainly trying to do that.
Different.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time.
Well, you're welcome for that.
Okay. And I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again, I hope so.
Oh, I think so.